Michael, you're becoming an old hat and an old pro at this.
I was worried that I didn't know how to wormhole for a second there.
Oh, yes, you're right. I guess I should say the virtual limousine. That sounds, much better. But I figured, since there's a bunch of space nerds here in this crowd, we're good, right?
100%.
Well, I am really excited to have Michael here. So we met each other on an Ask Me Anything sofa. I don't know, maybe in April or May. Seems like a long time ago, but because the world has changed quite a lot. But I was so impressed with talking about what you do, your mindset and your approach, and really saying, as a recruiter, what did I experience and how can I make this better? So you really are the embodiment of the whole kind of tagline for this event, which is, how can we make talent matching, less a soul-sucking process and actually enriching for the now of work and in the future. So I'm really excited to have you here taking the stage.
Awesome. I'll maybe try and share my screen. Let me know if you can see what I want you to see. Can you see a screen with a blue background, Liz?
Yes, I can. Equitas, beautiful. All right, well then I will go off screen and I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Liz. So I'm glad to be here, everyone. Today we're going to talk about applications in the age of AI. I'll do a quick introduction. So my claim to fame and background has been 10,000 plus interviews and assessments over the last 8 years. I've had an incredible opportunity in the UK to work for a lot of different companies. And whenever it got to that final stage of the process, whenever you're sat in a room doing an interview, it was usually me sat on the other side of the table there and helping the hiring managers out. So had an opportunity to build some great teams for some of these great companies, which hopefully everyone who's joined us worldwide will maybe know a few of them. I always ran into the same couple of problems. It was never a digital process, and that always used to really annoy me. And the second part, which everyone's starting to learn a lot more about these days, is that people could be quite biased. They weren't doing what I was doing day in, day out when it came to interviews and assessments. And sometimes they could use a bit of affinity bias and pick people that they like. Or if it was panel interviews, it could lead to a bit of conformity bias and everyone just going with the same scores and being able to be talked and persuaded around by other people as well. So that's why I formed my company called Equitas, and we're interview software that tries to help companies make better, less biased hiring decisions. But I'm not here to talk to you about my company today. Today, we're going to talk about what the application process looks like, what the journey looks like for candidates at the minute, where AI can start to come in different areas of the process. And for anyone who's joining us on the call today who's looking for jobs, I'm really hoping that I can give you some really good tips and tools and technology that can help you stand out or try to make sure that you're still getting through the process, even though parts of it will start to use artificial intelligence throughout. So I will kick off with some trends in the market, and I was listening to a few of the other talks, and even Michelle's that I was just on the main stage there, who was incredible and brilliant. I now feel that she's covered half of my trends off. So the first 6, 7 slides might not be new news to you as well. So the first thing that's happening because of COVID and mass redundancies has been the volume of candidates applying to roles is massively increasing. So this graph here was throughout lockdown in the UK from a particular ATS provider called TribePad. And this was just one client where it went from 80,000 applications over the space of a 4-week period to nearly 500,000, which is just incredible volume coming through for that particular company. And that's going to be the same for roles going forward. That early stage is going to be super competitive for the next sort of 12 to 18 months at a minimum. But what that does mean is that people are developing new tools to try and help job seekers out there. So the number of free job boards that have started springing up overnight has been incredible. It's been an amazing response. So a couple of the ones that I know about and always like to share with people are stillhiring.io, which was, I think, founded in the UK. And the one that's a bit more US and global is Work From Home. And they send out a newsletter with completely remote jobs just delivered to your inbox once a week. And I still keep signing up to that newsletter and keep getting it every week because it's just interesting to see the volume of roles that are going completely remote with it as well. So there is tools out there to help people who are looking for jobs at the moment. the amount of HR technology that is going to be used throughout the hiring process is just going to increase. So this one graphic from CV Insights is amazing. And you can just start to see the parts of the HR and talent space that are not being replaced, but more augmented and being helped along in terms of decisions and automating parts of the process. So you can see there is so many different tools, and this is not a definitive list of all of them. They have really had to trim down and just to fit in the different tools that come into different parts of the process as well. So more and more HR teams, even though that at the moment they're saying, oh, we might not have budget, they're shopping around, they're looking at different HR technology and tools, and how can we spend a little bit of money so that our people can do more with these particular tools. And if there's any areas here that interest you later and you want to ask me about it, I know a good few of these companies, and always happy to recommend the good ones that I know. Something me and Liz chatted about, which was really interesting, and she even sent me the competency framework of the future, which I thought was incredible and something that a lot of companies should start to strive towards. But what we're seeing them having to do immediately is look at how they are advertising their role and what are the ways that they're actually assessing them, and what are the actual skills, competencies, behaviors that they're assessing them against. That is all changing with things going remote, with the level of technology that they use as well. And they're having to be a lot clearer and open and transparent whenever they're hiring. So everyone at the minute is having a look, and at the very least, a little tweak, a bit of a refresh in terms of the type of materials that they are putting out to the world at the moment. So the other thing that's super important for companies at the minute, we have been talking about employer brand for the last load of years, if not decades. And what it's going to be replaced with is employer reputation and job brand. So what I mean by that is there is a definitive list of all the bad things and employment practices that have been going on throughout COVID. And people have been preaching, here's what my employer brand is, here's how good we are, and building a lot of trust and respect in the market. But as soon as difficulty comes along, some of them haven't always been practicing what they preached. I give the example here of Virgin. They're an amazing company and have built some incredible brands across the world. And I used to love their assessment process. I always quoted that as one of the best practice assessments that they had. But as soon as the pandemic hit, they're telling everyone to take holidays and things like that. So their reputation can take a dent because of just what's happening in the minute. Whenever I'm talking about job brand here as well, it's not just important to have a company that's cool and got a good brand to work for. People are starting to want really interesting jobs, and I'm sure you'll notice some of the job titles that are starting to pop up, which are super interesting as well. So head of remote work is growing at the minute. Head of diversity and inclusion is growing as well, which is absolutely amazing, and one that every company is going to need in the long run. 99% of people want to work remotely, at least part, if not all of the time. And that stat comes from Buffer, and that was even before the crisis hit as well. So I'm pretty sure we're up to about 100% now as well. So for the application journey, I have tried to condense it down to 5 key areas to talk about. So right at the start, whether it's simple CV, cover letter, online application, or even video CVs, is usually the start of your journey as a job seeker. It can then go into the sifting area. So things like situational judgment tests, psychometrics, game-based assessments are becoming more and more popular as well. One-way video interviews, I'm not a big fan, but a lot of companies adopt them whenever they have high volumes. So there could be a growing trend in those asynchronous one-way video interviews as well. Two-way video interviews, more of a fan of those. Obviously, it's the product that we offer as well, where there's a human on the other end as well. Virtual assessment centres, growing in the UK. I'm not sure about the US market as well. But a lot of those processes that were paper-based face-to-face are now becoming completely digital. And always final interviews, depends on the market and who's conducting it, but they're always going to be part of the process as well. So where will companies start to use AI? Where are they already using AI? And what's it going to look like in the future? So those first 3 stages are the ones that are most ripe for artificial intelligence coming in and either replacing some of the decisions that they're making, or at the very least aiding the decision-making process from there. So the types of AI that are already in existence are being used for there. CV resume parsing, so keyword analysis, depending on the applicant tracking system that the company is using, there is this offer of functionality. So there is tools that you can use to try and make sure that your CV still stands out whenever they're using these, but it's one of the first things that's been used for years and years already. What I've seen some of the video interview providers start to try and assess and analyze is personality based on natural language processing. So the types of words that you're using during your video CV or your video interview, and trying to analyze that, look at your personality, looking at a little bit of sentiment analysis and your engagement, and seeing if they think you'd be a good fit for the role. I would love some questions in the chat or get other people's opinion on this as well, what you think on this, because there's a lot of good debate over the last few days whenever we were talking about assessments, whether personality was a good fit and measuring whether they're right for the role and where it should come into the process. So I'd love to hear what you think, and if anyone's got any questions on that particular area. The last one, the most controversial at the minute, is facial recognition to try to measure engagement. So whenever it comes to those video interviewers, there's been some of the biggest providers in the world who've been trying to analyze people's faces and saying that they've got hundreds of data points that they're using in order to decide how engaged they are. Now, I don't know if a lot of you've seen it. There's been a lot of kickback in the market, and some of these big companies have class action lawsuits pending against them because of it, because it's not always explainable. And the other issue that we've had with facial recognition, and massive for everyone, is that it can have a negative impact on diversity and inclusion. So the way these algorithms are built and the accuracy of them when it comes to people from different ethnicities and backgrounds is not 100% accurate. So it can actually be really, really bad if they're using this technology. There has been news reports at the minute with people like IBM saying they're completely dropping it for now, and we just can't get the technology accurate enough as it currently stands. So even though it's being used in the market, it's something that's very interesting. Personally, I'm not using it, don't want to use it as well in the short term, and it's going to have to be so more accurate if we're going to start to use it to make hiring decisions as well. So for those of you, I'm sure, who are potentially back on the job seekers market, might have never done a one-way video interview. So for this, it's not the most natural process. So no interviewer, you either get one go or multiple attempts, usually some level of structured questions. And the best advice I can give you here is that whenever they're using artificial intelligence, it is usually to judge engagement. So just try to be super engaging with the way that you're talking throughout. So simple things like eye contact, looking straight down the camera, which can feel unnatural, but always being super engaged, no matter what answer you're given, no matter how boring or technical the topic that you're talking about. It will make sure that at least you get past that engagement score as well. And yeah, there's different levels of artificial intelligence being used in the one-way video interview market at the minute. The issue that we have introducing AI into this process is, one, the algorithms. It depends who's developed them, whether they've got a diverse group of people to start to build these algorithms, or whether it's all very similar people and just coded it in there, because we know that bias can be coded in as well. So I know a lot of you have probably heard this example already, but it's one I love to quote of when it can go really wrong. Was when Amazon tried to build a artificial intelligence tool to analyze people's CV and progress the right people for the role. Now, the issue was they used historical data from all of their warehouses that they were hiring for, and the majority of the people were men. 80% plus of the workforce was men. So what then happened was, whenever they taught this particular algorithm, it became super biased. Anytime it saw the word woman in there, so maybe women's hockey team or head of the women's chess team, anything like that, sifted straight out. And same again with women's schools. If they knew it was an all-girls school, the algorithm would be just like, nope, not a good fit for us, not a good hire for Amazon. But it's not all doom and gloom whenever it comes to it. Sometimes people can get it really, really right. And the best sort of tools that I like on the market at the minute are the ones that help augment and help to try and encourage people to reduce bias as well. So this is just a simple example from TapRecruit, and what they use their AI to do is to try and make really inclusive job descriptions, which again is helping companies make sure that they're building diverse and inclusive teams. So how to ensure your application succeeds whenever you're faced with all these different hurdles to get through. Some of this you'll have heard from some of the other talks earlier in the week. There's been some great ones already, but I thought I'd share some of my background and sort of give you a bit of advice. I've broken it down into 4 broad topics. So research, design, content, and technology. So whenever you're researching for a particular role that you're applying for, sometimes you need to know more than the interviewer sat on the other side of the room or to the person who's doing the screening of your CV as well. It really does help to know the company inside and out. I think back to my days at Sky, and one of the most important things they assessed people on was their motivation for the role and motivation in the company. Sometimes when I was sitting down to do those interviews, the person at the other end of the table knew more than I did about the product, what was on offer, the different deals. They just loved it and loved the company so much inside and out that it made them a lot easier to hire for those particular roles as well. So in terms of ways that you can research the company, we've all chatted about LinkedIn. Reach out to everyone who works there, similar roles, ask to buy them a quick coffee or a virtual coffee, 5-10 minutes just to find out what it's actually like to work there. And a lot of people will just offer you their time and tell you a little bit what it's like as well. So really good way to do as much research as possible. And I'll give you a few tools and tips for doing more research as well and start to automate that process. For design, if AI is being used to scan your CV, it doesn't really matter about design as much, but that's not the majority of cases. So even though we talked about that resume parsing, 85 to 90% of the time, it's still a human looking at it as well. A lot of people can't afford these tools. So the design can matter, and I'll share a few different templates that you could put in there just to make it stand out. Unfortunately, so many people fall into that 7-second trap of they will scan a CV, and if it looks nice or not, they'll spend a little bit more time going into it as well, which is a sad state of affairs to work with. Content, always the most important aspect whenever you're applying. So just link it back to the job advert, spec, role, and the company as much as you can. And there's a couple of ways to check your content. I'll show you that in the next slide. Technology, use all the tools available, and we'll cover that now. So the best 3 tools that I would recommend to people whenever it comes to the CV stage are Rezzy, Canva Resumes for templates, and the Muse action verbs as well. So for Rezzy, it's a really cool bit of AI where you upload your CV and it's going to check it against the particular role that you're applying for. And it'll let you know how many keywords that you've got in there and whether it's a good match or whether it's a good fit or not. So really cool tool to check out. Take it with a pinch of salt, as with everything that I'm recommending to you at the minute. But an awesome tool just to test your CV and see if it's right for the role that you're particularly applying for. And it can help you get through that first stage if there's a lot of keywords that are missing out from there. For the ones that are going straight to humans, just give them something nice to look at. That is the best piece of advice I can give you. Drag and drop on Canva templates at resumes as well. Pick a style that suits you. Personally, wouldn't go for the pink one there. It's a little bit standout-ish as well. But just choose a style that fits and go from there. And you don't always need the picture in here as well. You could strip that out as well. Another amazing thing to make sure that your CV is standing out and getting through these processes as well. The Muse has 185 action verbs. So sometimes you feel that you're a bit repeating yourself whenever you're going through this. Have a look here. You can get some amazing words that will just make it really stand out and make your application a lot punchier as well. More tools to look at as well. And yeah, I use the majority, if not all of these, or recommend them to a lot of people as well. So Grammarly's Ace as a writing assistant. We talked about Rezzy. Another alternative to Rezzy, Job Scan as well. Same idea, scanning your CV for those keywords and make sure they're coming in. For the company research, Glassdoor, Wikijob, LinkedIn, really easy, top 3 to go for as well. And then design and content. So Canva, you've got already, Muse, action verbs, and the last 2 in there. If they are doing competency-based interviews and have competency-based within the job spec description, check out the Harvard Competency Dictionary. It's got 80 of the most commonly used competencies and tells you where to find them within your previous roles and how to set them up as well for either an interview or your CV. It's an amazing tool. And then the last one, Workable, is a list of interview questions. They're quite good at getting a lot of content out there, Workable. So not always super in-depth, but a good sort of guide on what to expect. So that's everything I've got planned for, and I've got through at Northern Irish pace. So I'd love to welcome any questions anyone might have at this stage.
Awesome. So awesome. That was great.
So I've just gone at pace and got as an Irish content in there as possible.
Okay, so I have to show you something. Can you see this? This is what my
Hard.
husband. Slow down. I'll make you your own.
I'm the same with product demos. It's just like this will last 15 minutes and you will have questions, and it's not your fault. It's me and not being able to slow down.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, there's a lot of wisdom in there and a lot of really important aspects to think about that, unless you're really in that industry, you don't really know about. So a couple of questions did come in. One, just quickly off the bat from Jen is, will Canva resumes be easy for tech to scan? Because this is where we've also gotten a couple of different feedbacks on that. Yep.
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So if you know it's going to be scanned, I'd have 2 copies of your CV as well. So if it's smaller, like SME scale ups, things like that, who potentially don't use this, and the majority of enterprises, like I said, it's good to have the Canva one if you know it's going to be a human. If you know it's going to be scanned and parsed as well, sometimes it's just having a plain black and white one as well, which can make life easier. Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes what they're using, what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, my Canva CV really made a big difference because, like you said, it depends upon the role, but some of them, they're not using AI, and it was just like, finally, there was something different.
Me as well, whenever I've been helping people out with it before, like it's drag and drop, it's so easy, you can learn it so quickly and it makes it look beautiful, like it just stands out, and it's free. So what more can you want?
Yeah, exactly. I love it. Paula's very important. So English is not my first language, so the words I use are not necessarily influenced by my personality. I wonder if those techniques that are being used to analyze personality are also adjusted for English as a second language.
So definitely use Grammarly to start there. I'm native speaker and I use Grammarly just to make sure, like have it check all my emails, because you never know what potential mistakes you're using. Yeah, sentence structure could come in there, 100%. They might just think, oh, is this strange, or is this keyword not something coming up? So there is definitely, get someone to check it over for you if English is not your first language, just to be 100% sure. And it could potentially improve your chances there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I think the question came in when we were just talking about HireVue or the one-on-one interviewing situations, if they also account for English as a second language or, those aspects.
It's really hard. We've looked at this as well. And whenever you start to analyze it, even when you're going down to the basic and the transcription as well, if English is a first language and it's not super accurate and they've not got any process in place to make sure the transcription is 100% accurate, it's super difficult. So yeah, it is one to ask and question them. And this is why it's really important for those providers who are out there to actually make sure what they're doing is accurate. And like, that's why I said there's like so much kick up in this space at the minute, because the ones who are using like AI, if they can explain it and they've got fair decisions that are being made, great. But there are others in the space who are like, we've got 500 plus data points and we're not going to tell you what any of them are.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I studied work and organizational psych, and one of the things was voice recognition and facial recognition is going to be one of the hardest things to do, and what is our stance? And so yeah, I was 2004, so
wow,
I was very young. So
you're still on the same topic.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think the last one also came in was about Rezzy. If you could talk about hi, hello from Dublin. Can you go over what Rezzy does again? Sorry, I was moving from room 1. Okay.
Absolutely fine. And I think there's a recording of this that goes out to Vina in case you want to check it. But like Rezzy, I found this, if you follow them, they're amazing. Hung Lane is recruiting brain food. I spotted it when he mentioned it on his newsletter. And Rezzy, you essentially just upload your CV and you tell them what type of role that you're applying for, and then it'll just see, are you got enough keywords for that particular role in industry. So it's, again, like all of these tools are amazing to trial out and they can get you thinking, but still use your own decision making, like take it all with a pinch of salt. But it's a really cool thing to think, am I missing out like 20, 30, 40 keywords that should be in fact your role? And then you start to trial it and make sure that if they are using AI, it can get you past that first stage as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I love it. So the last one was if how is there any way you can find out ahead of time if an employer is using AI, or other tools besides just the normal ATS systems?
Depends how good their HR team, talent team are. Like if you ask, sometimes they'll tell you. And like this is what I said on our assessments talk
Yeah.
yesterday. A lot of the time when it gets down to psychometrics, if you ask
Hmm.
them who you're using, they'll tell you, and then you can go and practice those specific materials and have a good idea of what's coming up as well. So, they should tell you in the
Yes.
current environment with like
Yeah.
1,000+ people coming per job.
Yeah.
By the time they get back to you, you might miss the close date. This is the only issue. But do ask them, and it can mean the difference between putting in your Canvas CV or putting in your more black and white, straightforward CV.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I think so can AI read PDF better or sending Word in Word but risk formatting changes?
I always PDF. I don't know if that's the right answer. I'm not. I can't go into that granular level of
Yeah,
detail.
that's pretty, okay, but
It's
Chad,
great.
right. So I think this is an important one because there's a lot of discussion in the sourcing community and the recruiting community. Cover letters, yay or nay? What's your opinion on that one?
You know what? The ones that I like the most instead are a short, like situational judgment test style ones. So, a great one. I asked my old employer Aldi what they're doing at the minute, and one of my old said just apply. And I was just like, why? He's like, you'll see how easy it is to do it quickly, and you'll remember when you were working here, being there, like what you were doing, and see if you passed it or not. And it was actually quite good because it was really simple, like role specific questions, like a realistic simulation of what was happening in the job. And it took me less than like 15 minutes. So I would rather something like that, like a realistic job simulation, than a cover letter, because so many times in my experience when I've used cover letters to hire, it's very similar content, the same. Now, it
Yeah,
always stands out when someone actually puts a lot of effort into it, but it's
yeah,
really difficult to do, and so much of the time's wasted. It can waste a lot of candidate time as well if they're applying for so many jobs. I'd rather something realistic, job specific, alongside your CV if they still need that as well.
yeah.
I love this one from Chad here on Canva, goes for beauty. What I've realized, Chad, as well, the way you lay it out, you can actually fit more content into less space. So just having that little simple paragraph breaker down the side with skills and things, you can actually squeeze more content in sometimes. So I get what you're saying, but sometimes if you can squeeze a bit more good content into smaller space, it makes it a lot easier. So yeah, the reverse of it is just having like a 4 or 5 page CV, which nobody wants to read.
Even if outplacement organizations tell you that you need a 6-page CV, but that may just be Germany. Like nobody, ain't nobody. All right. So I think one of the pieces that you spoke about is that cover letters are quite often very general. And this was that aspect of, as we look to, Michelle Fogarty was saying, if you tell me you're empathetic, that's really nice to know, but I don't believe you yet. And I think that that's also the aspect a little bit around cover letters is how are you showing, what you're doing? And
so it comes into CVs as well.
mm-hmm.
So for CVs, that's what I'll see so much of the time when someone said, I've done this. And I was like, you could potentially copy and paste your old job description and just put it in here. Tell me what happened. What was the impact? Yeah. I always quote them because a lot of the time they teach best practice. Now, I don't know if they always followed it because I never hired for them or not. But with Google, I love their stats-driven CVs. Like it really made it so much easier to digest. If you said, I did this project with these people, here's the impact, here's the percentage uplift, here's what we achieved, here's what we implemented, here's what we've done. And it was just having that kind of outcome and impact that people can so often miss off their CV all the time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was funny. We were talking before about the STAR method of, situation, task, action, result, and this aspect of drilling in and how do you really understand what the impact was. And it goes back to kind of what Kevin was talking about yesterday about, how are we leading with insights? Because that really helps to gauge, okay, what was really going on. And we are working in teams, and that social competence to be able to work in teams rather than just passing along work packages that's becoming more and more important. So being able to tell your story around impact and outcomes and who you worked with and through is so important. Yeah.
And this is the thing, when I speak to people, if they've got their CV and it needs a bit of work, usually you can just do that from talking to someone. So if you are using services out there, be careful ones who say, I'll rewrite your whole CV for you. The easiest way to do it a lot of the time is ask them, like, tell me what you've done at your work. And then that's when the real people who can help you do it will sit there and just be able to say, look, here's the amazing things that you've done, and really help you draw that out.
So true. Yeah, so true. And I couldn't say it better, because I mean, we've all done that. It's like, that was the past. I'm moving forward. It's like, no, you have to reflect a little bit on it. Okay, awesome. Any other questions? And anyone who would like to come up, this is a unique opportunity. Michael is a wonderfully warm and very fast chatter, which I, from Oregon, am very appreciative of.
If anyone wants to email me, feel free, or feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Always happy to answer any follow-up questions that you've got as well.
Yeah, perfect. And then we'll be putting the list of tools and recommendations together. That's actually something that is available on Hey Summit. So every speaker can add like tools and resources, and we'll be collecting those as well. So
awesome. I'll put all mine up, and hopefully they're useful for some of the people listening. Someone said here, Holly, sorry to answer your question. It does require a subscription after one go. Use your one free go if you like it, and then if not, it's like $9 or something like that. So yeah, it's worth trialing anyway for free.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, what I like about Rezzy is that it is against a particular job. So there's other ones, I think, in like Resumo, and there's some great things out there where people are really trying to help. But this one is really nice because it matches against the particular job.
And any company worth their salt is being super, super job specific with the way they hire. If they're going super general, it doesn't make sense. They won't hire the best people in the long run.
Yeah, that's true. It's just like I'm a team player. I'm really not hired for that. All right. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Michael Campbell. So wonderful to have you as part of this, and I'm looking forward to continuing to see you today.
Yeah, anytime, Liz. Thank you so much. And I've got to run to catch a train.
All right. Your speed will get you there. All right. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, everybody.